Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on the new Black Wealth. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. Financial experts tell us black spending power is at an all-time high, but net worth is not keeping pace. With systemic discrimination now banned and new opportunities growing, there are concerns that other factors are the reason. High-profile, highly paid athletes like Magic Johnson, LeBron James, and Shaquille O'Neal set powerful examples of how to use their personal wealth to improve African-American communities. It could not have been done without financial literacy.
It was just like a long line of like women.
Lessons rising hip-hop megastar Megan Thee Stallion is learning well. Forbes senior writer Jabari Young interviewed the hot girl chart-topping artist for a Forbes cover.
She's already had LLCs in place, and one of the first things she always says, I pay my bills, I pay off debt, and she saves her money, right? And that mindset is already there. So as she continues on her career, she has a lot more growing to do, a lot more revenue to capture, but she already has that specifics, the foundation.
Despite gains made in income, education, and accessibility to opportunities once denied due to institutionalized racism, there's little growth in black net worth, says Wells Fargo Advisors Senior Vice President Mark C. Smith. He says there are many reasons, but one stands out.
Debt is really being the main thing that's saddling our people by having a consumer-based ideology and how we look at our own wealth and spending first and not saving first. And so that is the major thing that I think we all need to work on.
Elite Realty Partners owner Tanisha Williams went from being a teen mom facing daunting challenges to one of Florida's top real estate brokers and company owners. She mentors more than 150 real estate agents and is dedicated to putting black families in their dream homes and helping them to build their net worth.
The truth is that there aren't any black brokerages that are nationwide. The truth is that it's 2023, and when it comes to successful brokerages, not one Black-owned comes to mind.
Let's find out what this all means from our panel. Joining me for this conversation is Jabari Young. He's a senior writer for Forbes. Jabari, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Thank you. Also with us is Tanisha Williams. She is the broker and owner of Elite Realty, one of the most powerful and influential brokers in Florida with an incredible story. Tanisha, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Also with us is Mark C. Smith. He's a senior vice president and portfolio manager for Wells Fargo Advisors. Mark, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on again, Lisa.
Mark, I want to start with you in terms of the big picture. When I told you the title of the show, that it was New Black Wealth, you took a little bit of issue with that because of these reports that we've been seeing about black net worth not really advancing, despite the fact that the spending is at an all-time high. Can you explain that to us in terms we can understand?
Yeah, I mean, I think the title, The New Black Wealth, is a great title for only talking about the top, 0.1% of African Americans. But I think what I thought was more appropriate is the Black Wealth Gap, which is the difference between what the average African American has in net worth compared to their white counterpart. And if you look back going to the civil rights movement in the 1960s, the net worth of Black Americans have actually not gone up one iota since 1960, if you look at the charts. So, I think that's something to be said about that. And, we can talk about, institutional racism starting back from the days of Jim Crow and how just recently things have changed where you have banks now, they've recognized that redlining did happen. And so that impacted a lot of the black wealth that happened around the country. And then you had a number of different examples of people getting their land seized. Actually, there was just a case in California that was opened up recently by Governor Gavin Newsom with a number of different African Americans that had their land seized by eminent domain. And after generations of saving, scrimping to buy land was just taken from them in one full swoop. And so there's a case because of all these things that have happened to African Americans over the course of American history for reparations. There's really no way to fix the issue with trying to improve the situation of African Americans economically without talking about reparations, because unfortunately you can't go and buy land in this country without significant down payment, great credit, and a bank being on your side to afford that property. And so if you don't have the money to get in the game, you're never going to improve the situation.
Tanisha, tell us your story, how you got started you were a teen mom or were a teen mother. You got started, you have your own real estate business now. You're one of the biggest in the state of Florida. Tell us how you close that whole, how you close that gap for yourself.
Well, that's exactly how Elite Realty Partners got started. When I realized that it was not just disparities and racism amongst Black homeowners, but there's also racism that exists amongst Black real estate professionals. When I realized that as a new agent, I decided that I wanted to be a top real estate brokerage as a Black woman and help bridge the gap. We are involuntarily yet unapologetically an all minority brokerage. So that means I have at least 200 Black agents that are in the community to help bridge this African-American home ownership gap. And that's why we're doing it. Even though we don't get the same treatment when we go to a listing appointment, it is not the same as when our counterparts go to a listing appointment. But this is why we're doing it. And this is where my core values lie, in just breaking barriers in this market as a Black female and for my other Black real estate agents and Black homeowners.
Right, and I know a big part of your whole business plan and your vision is also empowering other people, and you've empowered so many other men, but a lot of women too, to get into it.
Oh, absolutely. The truth is that there are over 200,000 real estate agents in Florida, and only about 5% are Black. And that means that probably about 1% or less even produce. So the fact that we have all of these Black agents here at Elite that are producing now, I mean, they came from other brokerages that don't look like us, and they weren't producing. So it's just a certain level of care and relatability that we have here at this brokerage that penetrates with our agents that allow them to produce and help the community in a big way.
No, that's fantastic. Jabari Young, you write about a lot of athletes, about very highly successful athletes. You just wrote and interviewed Megan Thee Stallion about her business plans along with her music career. Do you take the same view? Do you see that this lack of net worth growth is due to things from the past and other obstacles that continue to exist systemically? But when we spoke before the show, you see some kind of hope, and you see some of these barriers breaking down. What's your take on all this?
Well, Lisa, again, thanks for having me. And, I can't sit up here and disagree with any of the stats that Mark threw out there. I think traditionally and historically, we see that it's a problem, right? You see that, Blacks have been unfairly, treated. We still go through discrimination in the workplace. We still go through discrimination when trying to build. But, that there is a bright future. Listen, the barriers, right, that were there historically have been removed through the information age, right? We're more connected than ever, right? We're probably more antisocial in a social media environment, but we're more connected than ever, right? You could pick up the news and see something that happened, unfortunately, in Memphis instantly, right? We're back in the day when, I grew up, man, you had the newspaper was still, relevant, but, you didn't get that type of quick news. And so, listen, the information barrier is there. NIL now allows, young Black athletes to get some type of income a little bit earlier now. So, the pathways to revenue is there, right? Now, I had a conversation with a professor at Columbia last night before I hopped on this call today. And I was asking him, hey, when we have discussions about Black wealth, what is the one thing to keep in mind? And he said, Jabari, that there is hope for a future, right? And what is that future? Again, the information barriers, they're gone, right?
There's so much more information, exactly.
Absolutely. You have so many other platforms that you can go out and make revenue. It's just about the key thing he called the specifics, right? Learning what a savings account is, learning how to be better with money, learning what credit card interest is, those things, those small things that's going to help you, because the money's coming, right? What's going to help grow the money?
Our American culture is based on consumerism, and especially for the group that would be in the first time home ownership, everything you see on your phone is people are living their best life. They're wearing the $700 sunglasses or the $50 knockoffs that look really real or whatever. But Mark, what about the consumerism? Is that a threat culturally?
Culturally, absolutely, and the proliferation of hip hop over the last 40 years in this country has really kind of put on a pedestal that type of lifestyle, the lifestyle that where you spend what you don't have. If you look at the top artists, even Rihanna was bankrupt, right? So she's come back quite a bit from there. But if you look at the papers, she was bankrupt. You've got guys like Lil Wayne who's have cars repossessed. I mean, for every person you can pick out, they did something bad financially and then learn from it and hopefully improve their life. So yes, consumerism is definitely a part of the culture. You cannot own anything in a capitalistic society without capital. And you save capital by having a job or a career or being an entrepreneur, saving and being disciplined. And then you're able to acquire real estate, stocks, portfolios, whatever it is. But you've got to get that savings piece first.
Tanisha, what about that?
You know, my mom always told me it's not about what you make, is what you keep. And the lack of mentors in the Black community is also an issue. See, exposure is what leads to expansion. And a lot of us, truth be told, we're just not exposed. So we're expecting a community to just know something and do something, and they haven't been exposed to it. You could take entertainers, athletes, I've even heard this, where they may be directing someone that doesn't look like us on what to do and how to do it with their real estate portfolios and how to save their money. But Black athletes and Black entertainers, they don't get that type of mentorship. They're just looked at as a dollar sign. So even though they have the money, if they don't have the mental maturity or a mentor that's helping them and guide them to what to do with the money, then they're going to be in the same situation, because money does not make you wise.
For every athlete that we can sit up here and name that went and had financial problems, as well as rappers, you know, there are some good ones as well, you know, and I think that, again, that information age, the information age that we're in now is helping. Because people are much more aware of mistakes. You can just tap Google right now and search how to open up an account. There is no more excuses. You know, it really isn't. You know, I had a chance to take a trip to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and was really walking the grounds of Black Wall Street. And it was demoralizing in a way, but also inspiring in another way, because you still see a community, though everything that's happened to that community, and we all know the history of it, they're still on the ground, they're still trying to build, they're still fighting. That, to me, is the spirit of Black wealth. But, you know, when you go to that community, you realize that, you know, they have that, you know, put my boot in my ground, put the shovel, and they want to build, right? How are we helping build them? I think it goes back to not only Black athletes understanding what to do with their money, right? But also sharing that economic resource, right? The leagues going and saying, hey, we're not only going to go and build you basketball courts, right? And help nonprofits, we're going to help the for-profit businesses. That's how you change the Black wealth, right? It's not just about the nonprofit, right? One of the lines I heard down there from a brother says, we've been nonprofit to death. Right. And I felt like that was important, because what are we doing to help the for-profit business in order to change the narrative about the Black wealth? So that way, the next time we're on this show, and Mark, we don't have to call it. We can say, hey, this is where our Black wealth is, and this is where it needs to go.
Jabari, but think about this. As I'm a Black broker, right, with all of these Black agents, and every time we see Black athletes, Black entertainers, they don't use Black real estate agents. Let's be clear. And when we talk to them, you know why they don't use them? Because their realtor is coming directly from their agent. Their realtor is coming directly from their team. They don't even have a say-so in who their real estate agent is.
Mark, what advice do you have for people who are living paycheck to paycheck? How do you get out of that so that you can start to save money for these down payments to get a home and to get ahead and to build savings, when people are like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be alive in 10 years. Why do I have to save, or whatever?
What you are actually doing for work. Are you possibly in a job that's a dead end job, doesn't have any place where you can go and make more money 5 years from now? If you're in that type of role, take a step and look at yourself and turn and be like, do I need to go back to school? Do I need to go to trade school even? I know a plumber who's making $250,000 a year. We don't talk about that in schools anymore, about those trade jobs that are making six figures now. And there's a huge shortage. And if you're building a house, you know that better than anyone else. If you're looking for an electrician, a plumber, a mason, you're waiting 2-3 months for these people to come to your job, and they're charging you an arm and a leg. So you may want to look at, maybe I don't need to go to college. Maybe I just need to go to a trade school, be an apprentice for someone who's doing well, and start my own business. And so that's all those things you can do to try to get out of this paycheck to paycheck thing, is look at how much you're making and look how much you're spending.
Jabari, with all the athletes that you've interviewed, and the ones that are especially successful with their money? Because when you see these salaries, I mean, it's just mind blowing to the average person. You know, how many zeros, how many commas? I divide this by 2 years or 3 years or whatever the contract is. Were there certain players or certain sports where you found that they had better approaches or had, you know, better advice in terms of what to do with their money?
Well, you know, Lisa, listen, I mean, you're talking, it's hard, right? You're talking about 20-year-old players that are coming in and becoming exposed to massive amount of money. And, you know, listen, the human element, right, is something that we don't pay enough attention to. We can look at the metrics and talk about the numbers, but when you have that much money coming to you so fast, you know, you have family members, you take on more responsibility, your finances all of a sudden go up. And listen, the average person who may be listening to this show right now, right, or even on Hot 97, it's hard, right? It's hard to get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. But, you know, you can start by doing small things like getting out of the credit card debt, right? You turn that paper around and you look at what the interest rate is. I was there, right? I came up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I think a lot of us have been there.
You were all there, right? I mean, you don't know, but when you
keep it 100, Jabari, keep it 1,000 here, okay?
Keep it 1,000, right? Mark, you spent all your money on books. Mine was on suits at Boyd's, right? My first credit card, I was swiping it left and right. And, you know, it was such a hard time to pay it back. It took me about 2-3 years just to pay back $1,000, right?
Tanisha, how did you educate yourself and give us an idea of your trajectory into being this, you know, highly successful real estate broker, especially when there were, you know, you weren't dealt the best hand?
Yeah, you know, for me, you have to really get some type of exposure that gives you a burning desire to want more. You know, I was pregnant at 15 years old. I had my daughter at 16, and more so because, you know, we had a great family, but my dad had a drug addiction off and on majority of my life. So that's kind of where that pain point was. But I made a decision that, you know, I wanted to take my daughter off to college, graduated from Florida A&M University. But that was a burning desire to want more. You know, I remember being in college and my mom went to the bank and she needed some money or something like that. And they gave her a credit card because they thought she was me. So that limit started out at $5,000. And then because I kept paying on time, it went to $10,000, and then it went to $20,000, and then it went to $30,000. I was 19 years old with a $30,000 limit from Bank of America. And I remember Obama had to put a stop to that. And that just lets you know that even when you get exposed to, I might have been paying on time, but I was increasing the debt because I didn't know any better. So even though I was smart, I still didn't know any better. You can only, you only act based on what you know. And I think that if we continue to just push the information forward, for example, when I have my onboarding with so many different agents that look like me, you all would be surprised with just how much they just don't know.
What are you seeing for women who want to become homeowners, single women coming to you, or single moms?
Oh, it's twice as hard. You know, we know that most single parents are single mothers. So to try to buy a home and you're, you know, probably not even getting child support. And I say that only based on the buyers that are coming through. I don't know as a whole, but not even getting child support, trying to buy a home, it's really hard for them. That's why I'm so happy to see Mark and Jabari on here, because we need Black leaders. We need Black kings to teach other Black men, even the ones that are listening in right now, just to see somebody relatable that looks like you know, that can teach you and show you, you know, go follow Jabari, go follow Mark on social media, let them pour into you, even if it's from a distance. You know, now you can have virtual mentors. You don't have to ever meet them, but you can hang on to their every word. And that's what I love about it. So as a Black female that knows that everything is twice as hard for us, I also know that it's hard for our Black men. I look at my Black husband, you know, who's struggling to make sure that he leads this family. So I think that it's both. I don't want to ever single out Black women. It's Black men, it's Black women. We need to hold each other up, build each other up, and let's really help change the trajectory of our culture.
Jabari, last word there. Any advice for, because you know there's parents watching too that think their kid is the next superstar athlete. What advice do you have for you know, for us about this?
Well, I don't know if those parents that have the superstar athletes going to listen to me. So, you know, the message to the masses, and I would tell them, be open-minded. Again, I can't mention Tulsa, Oklahoma enough. That place is trying to build a new Black hub for tech. They want Black entrepreneurs. I was in Detroit for the Forbes 30 Under 30. I see a community there that's just together. Be open-minded, get out of your own communities, go to other spots, because when you talk about Black Wall Street, it just wasn't one, right? It was a whole bunch of them all throughout the country. So I think that level of information, that level of communication, the conversations that we're having right now, continue those, and we're only going to change the narrative and change this conversation in the years to come.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on the new Black Wealth. You can share it and watch it again on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and economic justice for all.